I'm recording, Adam.
So I'm on Skype with Dave Young. No.
This is where we put the big intro piece.
Yeah.
Do we have
Cue the theme song.
Cue the Pull My Finger podcast theme music. Did you write that yet? You've had since March.
I know. I have not. But we'll come up with something. You know, I know that singer rhymes with finger.
Sure. Yeah, I see you're halfway there.
Yeah,
I think that's about all we need.
Pretty good singer. Here's my song about pulling my finger.
So, you know, we've been talking about doing another episode because we've only done one so far. That was in March, and it was, an hour long?
Yeah, and today's will be shorter. I think, Dave, I don't know about you, but I think we should talk about bum wine today.
Well, I definitely think we should talk about bum wine. And I know, the reason this is going to be shorter, and I told you, we've been trying to find a time to do this for quite a while.
Yes.
And so you hit me up this morning, and then I almost canceled out on you because I had something else come up.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Well, I know, well, especially when you find out what it was. Like, I was going to cancel on you because a buddy of mine asked if I wanted to go downtown and get a burrito for lunch.
Well, I can respect that.
And it's like, gosh, you got to have priorities in life. And I don't see that the Pull My Finger podcast is right up there with a burrito for lunch in Tucson.
No. I mean, first of all, Tucson burritos are usually out of this world.
Yeah. How can I turn that down?
You can't. Are we talking about a burrito the size of your head?
Probably.
That's a beautiful burrito.
Probably at least that big.
What do you put on your burrito?
I don't know. My friend Eric, I usually go, if I'm going to go eat burritos at an authentic Mexican place with him, I just go with him because he speaks Spanish, and I just let him order.
Nice.
I've been to Mexico with him. He has this thing. He calls it the Holy Trinity of Tacos tour. And so we drive down to Nogales, Mexico, and you can get. Have you ever walked into Mexico?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It's just like a subway turnstile.
Yeah.
Right, and you just walk in, and all of a sudden, instead of like a regular looking town, it's nothing but pharmacies, dental offices, and little curbside taco stands.
And lots of little kids selling chiclets.
Oh yeah, little kids, and then there are streets where it's nothing but crafts and handcrafted furniture, things like that. So all the things that you would expect.
Yeah.
And so we walk into Mexico, and we stop first at a place that sells fish tacos, and we have an amazing marlin taco.
What does that taste like?
Marlin, it's fish. It's just a fish taco.
But was it fresh fish?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very fresh. It was delicious. Delish fish, as I like to say. And then you wash that down with a little freshly squeezed OJ.
Nice.
And then we walk a couple blocks to a place where there's a woman selling cabeza tacos on the sidewalk. She's got like a little stand set up.
So this would be the second taco
of
in
the
the
Holy
Trinity.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you know what a cabeza taco is?
No.
Cabeza is Spanish for head.
All right.
So
now, if I went to Mexico and got head, it would jeopardize my relationship.
This is a cow's head.
That doesn't make it any better. Wow.
Well, so basically they take a cow's head and put it in a pot and boil it till everything just falls off of it.
Everything inside and outside the head?
Inside and outside. It's all in a big old soupy, brothy mix, and then you take a slotted spoon and you pull all the bits and stuff out and slap that into a taco shell.
Okay.
And it's delish.
It's delish. Okay. It all right.
And from there we walk up the street to finish off the Holy Trinity with a carne asada, just a regular steak taco.
Okay.
And then it's back to the car. Oh, by the way,
Really?
yeah, you park when you go down through Nogales. There's a McDonald's. It's 2 blocks from the border, and you just hand a guy $5 in the parking lot, and he watches your car while you walk into Mexico.
And you get these 3 tacos, and then you leave.
And then you leave.
And that's it. You don't pick up any prescription drugs.
Nah, it's
You
just
don't
lunch.
pick up any non-prescription drugs.
No, so you're only in Mexico maybe at tops an hour, right?
Right.
And so the customs guy is like, so why did you go into Nogales? Well, for these 3 tacos. He's like, seriously? Yeah. There's 100 places in Tucson that have tacos that are just as good as these. We're like, yeah, but they're not in Nogales. And this guy,
And that's the thing. It's not as easy to get into Mexico.
it's not. It's easy. It's super easy to get into Mexico.
I guess maybe because I went to Tijuana years back, and it was post 9/11.
This is post 9/11. But here's the thing. Getting into Mexico is super easy. It's literally like walking through a turnstile. There's not even anybody standing there. They don't
It's
care.
getting out.
Come on in, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
the turnstile only spins one direction. So getting out of Mexico, much bigger deal. And so we stop and talk to the customs guy, and he's like, "So you were there just for tacos?" Yeah. And he's sitting there. He's sitting at a little booth facing Nogales, Mexico, right? He's facing the downtown. And he says to me, "I've sat here for 17 years and I've never set foot there."
Wow.
Can you imagine that?
I really can't.
I just thought, what a creepy dude.
Now, I will say that when I went to Tijuana, I kind of felt like I got it out of my system. My folks live down in San Diego, so they're really not far from there. And I went, and we had an interesting adventure. It was an okay time, but I really did not have a desire to go back.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say it was a terrible place to visit, but I was like, okay, I'm glad I scratched that off of my to-do list. I do not need to revisit it.
Well, so if you come visit us in Tucson, we'll get Eric to take us on the Holy Trinity taco tour, and you can have a tortilla shell filled with shredded cabbage while we eat delicious meat.
Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to imagine a vegetarian on that trip, which for our dozen listeners, our tens of listeners, I am, in fact, vegetarian.
Yeah, I know. I still think you're okay.
You know the story, but maybe I should share it with our tens of listeners. I'll give them the brief version.
Okay.
So my son is 9, and like a lot of kids, he's real. When he learned about what he was eating, he felt kind of bad. He loves anything he can pet, and he was 5 at the time, and it was almost exactly 4 years ago because it was right before Thanksgiving. And it was the week of Thanksgiving. And we're recording this just a little over a week before Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So he says to me, "Dad, we had a friend who was a vegetarian, so he knew what that word meant." He said, "Dad, I'm a vegetarian." And I was like, "Okay, so we're not." And that Thanksgiving, I made a traditional Thanksgiving meal. But we also, we supported him. We just said, you can't just eat cheese pizza. You have to eat vegetables. You have to eat
cotton
fruit.
candy.
And lots of cotton candy. and so
I think cotton's a vegetable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a pink vegetable. He held up his end of the deal. And, I used to be, when I was a kid, I was one. I live in Texas, so I'm a carnivore. I was at the time. But I kind of stopped eating meat. Around that time, I saw the movie Food Inc. And I just realized, maybe, we'd stick more to eating meat from like farmers markets and stuff. And as a result, I kind of stopped eating meat. And he kept saying to me, "Dad, are you a vegetarian?" I'm like, no, son, I'm not a vegetarian. Meanwhile, my wife's teasing me about, being a vegetarian. She's like, "Just commit. You haven't touched meat in months." So we were about 6 months in, and Milo looks at me. He says, "Dad, are you a vegetarian?" I said, "Yeah, I think I am." Without even thinking about it, I just said it. He starts to cry tears of joy. like he looks at me just in awe, and he's crying and he's smiling and he's so happy. And I mean, I don't know, man. I after that, I knew I couldn't eat meat. I wouldn't touch meat again. I won't touch meat again unless he starts eating meat, which is possible. I mean, but he's 4 years in. And he always loved pepperoni pizza. He loved bacon. He still remembers loving those things, but he doesn't. But for him, it's just it's part of who he is, So, so it's part of who I am.
That's touching.
Yeah, that's a touching story.
I'm moved.
Pass me the bacon.
Exactly. I didn't say that. You said that.
Well, I watch you eat meat all the time. I don't mind if other people eat meat.
Okay.
That's something Miles had to come to terms with, because he was sort of a militant vegetarian for a while. He's like, I was like, dude, you just got to let people make their own choices. There's nothing wrong with eating meat. It's an individual choice. When he was little, he saw our neighbor cleaning an animal that they'd hunted. And I think that was sort of not sort of traumatizing. It was traumatizing for him.
Yeah, that'll mess up a little kid.
And at that age, I had to explain to him, Milo, that's really great. I said, I know it's upsetting. I'm sorry you had to see that. But when we go to the grocery store and buy meat in a package, we're not thinking about what we eat, But when a hunter hunts the meat and cleans it and prepares it, it's a lot more respectful, a lot more honest, And that animal wasn't raised to die. It was just living its life, and that's how life goes sometimes. So he's mellowed out. He realizes that you can't change the world. You just do your thing. And I remind him he changed me, and I eat a lot. So that's a real win right there.
Okay. Well, so yeah. So I like to eat animals that eat vegetables.
Right. You only eat vegetarians. But fish will eat other fish. Yeah, absolutely. And worms.
Pigs will eat about anything.
Sure, they're pigs.
If the farmer falls, they'll probably eat him. That's if you ever watch Deadwood, you'll know that that's not where you want to fall, is into a pigsty of pigs
hungry
have
pigs.
A taste for people.
Yeah, man. I love Deadwood. I thought Deadwood was fantastic.
So let's talk about bum wine.
So glad you segued to that. I'm going to set it up.
It was a hard segue too, wasn't it?
I'm going to set it up first
Just
by
like
saying,
I slammed on the brakes and said, "All right, enough about this bum wine."
Yeah, well, pigs to bum wine. It's just sort of a natural progression.
Yeah. So set this up. Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna start from where I got introduced to the concept, and then of course you probably will do a flashback and then take us forward.
Okay.
So I get this text, and of course I hadn't seen it. We were out running some errands, and I get a phone call from you saying, "Hey, man, I arrived to Austin early. You were coming out for the Worthless Bastard meeting."
Yes, exactly.
And you had gotten on an earlier flight because you have your Premier Gold status, and they were able to get you on this earlier plane, and it was awesome. So you landed and said, "Do you want to kill some time with me? You want to get a cup of coffee or something?" And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then you said, have you heard of bum wine? You direct me to a website, bumwines.com, I believe.
It's singular, bumwine.com.
Bumwine.com. And I check it out, and you said, you want to help me find the 5 bottles that are featured on the website. And I was all in, and our journey began.
It was like a really low-life scavenger hunt.
It was. So you tell me, how did you discover bum wine? What led you to bum wine?
Well, it actually goes back to one of the original Worthless Bastards. I don't know if we need to explain what that is. Worthless Bastards or Plaid Shorts Day is a day that our founding partner Roy Williams sets aside every now and then for not necessarily his friends, but just people that kind of embrace the idea of, hey, let's plan on a day to do nothing. Let's plan on a day to just be worthless. And it goes back to 2 or 3 friends of his, and he'd been doing this for several years with them. And one of those guys is Brett Feinstein, and he's such a worthless bastard that he didn't even come to Worthless Bastard Day this year.
Right on.
I mean, so that's the epitome of worthless bastardness, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But years ago, Brett had shared this site because the writing is so good. It's like, first off, it's really good writing, but it's really good writing about really crappy wine. And this is not just wine. I mean, this is wine that's designed and blended and fortified for bums. And by that, I mean homeless alcoholics. This is the kind of wine that the moralistic, upstanding Ernest and Julio, whatever you call it, the Gallo Wine Company, the Mogan David Wine Company, these guys make these wines specifically for the demographic of down-and-out alcoholics.
I mean, we're talking about a bottle of wine. I mean, at the height of bumwine.com, some of these bottles were less than $2.
Yeah, but have like 17.5% alcohol by volume.
And even 18%, depending on, yeah, absolutely. They're potent.
And so the trick in finding them, like I headed out towards, for people that are familiar with it, you start at the airport on the east side of Austin, and I was headed over to the southwest, which is where Wizard Academy is, and I didn't stop at a liquor store on the east side. I waited till I was over closer to Mopac, or actually I went up. What's the street that's not Congress that comes down the middle of Austin?
30. You mean the highway?
No, it's just the regular street.
Lamar.
Okay. So I started at a liquor store in on Lamar, and I was already too far west. These liquor stores didn't stock things like bum wine. It was all frou-frou stuff for yuppies.
Yeah, hipsters. Quality.
They stock hipster wine. And so, I don't know how to put it delicately. If you want to find bum wine, you have to get into a neighborhood that has a little bit lower socioeconomic makeup than.
And we also noticed you find them at grocery stores and maybe like you said, in the lower socioeconomic areas.
Yeah.
And
it's like grocery stores near the interstate.
Right. And gas stations, corner stores. So your mission, since it had started with a Worthless Bastard and you were going to your first Worthless Bastards meeting, was to come with 5 bottles of bum wine.
And I mean, if you know Roy, he's been reviewing wines every week in the rabbit hole of the Monday Morning Memo.
Yeah.
So he's always been a bit of a connoisseur.
Yeah, and Roy doesn't screw around. I mean, wine, beer, whatever. Scotch. He has a policy. I mean, it's sort of a legend. I worked for the man. I was at the home office for years. And now I never actually witnessed anybody get fired for this, but the rumor that Roy himself had started was that he would fire you for buying bowling alley beer.
Yeah, like
so
a
he
Bud
doesn't
Light
mess
or
around
anything like that.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't mess around with wine and beer. He doesn't mess around with alcohol. So to bring,
and by not mess around, you're saying he doesn't slum around.
Right. It's got to be quality stuff. It's got to be really, yeah. There's got to be a story behind it. And
so a good example was the wine.
Here you are looking for. We should tell people what this stuff is.
Well,
so there's
what the 5 brands? Yeah, MD 2020. High school kids know it as Mad Dog.
Particularly the 18% version, which was the red grape, right?
Yeah, it tastes awful.
And I believe I'm on bumwine.com right now, and I'll just read a little bit of the copy. As majestic as the cascading waters of a drain pipe, MD 2020 is bottled by the 2020 Wine Company in Westfield, New York. This is a good place to start for the street wine rookie, but beware. This dog has a bite to back up its bark. Anyway.
It goes on. I mean, the writing on the site is
18%.
fun.
Anyone who can afford a dentist should steer clear of this disaster, is their recommendation.
Yeah.
Because I guess it's really, really bad for teeth. Although I would think if you could afford a dentist,
Maybe they meant
the more
can't
reason to
afford a
drink it.
dentist. Does it say?
Then there's Cisco.
And that's the one
Which
we
was the
couldn't
one we
find. It's the
couldn't
only one we
find,
couldn't
right?
find. And I think you really have to dive.
Are you still with me,
Yeah, I'm still with you. Can you hear me?
Dave?
Hello? I can still hear you.
I can still hear you.
Okay. You just
All
pulling
right.
my leg.
Cisco Red, we could not find it, and apparently it's not made anymore. And we did find some places in Houston that sell Cisco, and I'm so OCD, I was tempted to get in my car and drive. Just so
Well, I
we had
appreciate
all
that.
of
I
it.
don't see. You should have just come to the event with me, and I know you had other things to do.
Yeah, it was not a well timed. Otherwise, I would have been there, and you and I would have been very sick together.
So to contrast the bum wines, let me give you an example of what Roy had in mind for the wine that we were going to drink while we were at Worthless Bastard Day.
Yeah.
Do you remember reading a story in the Monday Morning Memo about the Royal Tokai?
Oh, yes. And I got to try a little of that with Roy. But yes, the
So
Royal Tokai.
The Royal Tokai is a single vineyard wine from Hungary that in the past you were only allowed to open a bottle by royal decree from like the King of Hungary.
And to make this wine, the grape has to freeze.
It has to freeze on the vine. It has to have a certain fungus that grows on it to give it its flavor. And so they don't even make it every year because the conditions have to be right.
Yeah, there are years where just the grape doesn't freeze.
And so like a year ago, Roy picked up this is in a big wooden, almost like an extended briefcase. It looks like the kind of case that a professional musician would carry a mandolin around in. Right? It's about that size, but it's wooden, big rectangular case that had 7 bottles of Royal Tokai in it, each one from a different vintage or a different vineyard inside the area that they can make Royal Tokai wine in. Right, so it's highly exclusive, extremely rare. I looked up online. This box of 7 bottles, as near as I could tell, cost him at least $700.
And when you open the box, you start to hear the John Williams theme from Indiana Jones. You know, the bum, bum, bum,
Yeah. Angels.
bum, 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 and everybody's like, cover your eyes.
And so we're sitting around finally in the afternoon, and we watched, there's a movie called Dean Spanley, where they explain the Royal Tokai. It's a funky, weird movie. It was Peter O'Toole's last film. And so we watched that. We're tasting now, I mean, with great pomp and circumstance, tasting the Royal Tokai. And then I bring out a bottle of Thunderbird, baby.
Oh, Thunderbird. Okay, all right. Wait.
And because it was similar in color. It's got kind of a yellowish tint to it.
Well, in Thunderbird on bumwine.com, we should just 17.5% alcohol by volume. As soon as you taste this swill, it will be obvious that its makers cut every corner possible in its production to make it cheap. Self-proclaimed as, quote, the American classic, end quote, Thunderbird is vented and bottled by E.J. Gallo Winery, Modesto, California. Disguised like Night Train, the label says that it's made by Thunderbird Ltd. If your taste buds are shot and you need to get trashed with a quickness, then T-Bird is the drink for you. Or if you like to smell your hand after pumping gas, look no further than Thunderbird.
Mm-hmm.
As you drink on, the bird soars higher while you sink lower.
So we actually decanted a bottle.
Wow.
Poured it into a decanter. Now, the funny thing is,
You let it breathe?
I let Roy actually, he was a good sport about it. He tasted some.
Holy crap.
And then he got up and poured the wine out into the woods.
Well, he probably killed the trees.
But here's the funny part, Adam. Not everybody in the room was a connoisseur. And so we actually, honest to goodness, it didn't taste all that different from the Royal Tokai.
Well, the thing about the Royal Takai is it's not a high alcohol content. And
It's very low alcohol content, but it's also very sweet.
it's very sweet. Like I knew I loved the story of it when I got to try it, but I wasn't like, oh, I got to have more. It just kind of tastes like drinking sort of sugar, and I guess Thunderbird does that too.
Yeah.
The warning they give you at bumwine.com is this light yellow liquid turns your lips and mouth black.
Now, none of us experienced that, but nobody drank the entire bottle.
A similar mysterious chemical reaction similar to reappearing ink makes you look like you've been chewing on hearty clumps of charcoal.
We didn't have any of that going on.
Okay.
But we did open it, and people that wanted to taste it. I mean, there were only about a dozen people at this event.
Yeah.
And so we had we ended up with 2 bottles of MD 2020, bottle of Thunderbird,
A bottle of Night
Wild
Train.
Irish Rose,
Yeah, Wild Irish Rose.
bottle of
and
Night Train. Mm-hmm. And then we had a couple of bottles of Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill.
Which does not qualify as bum wine.
No, but they do write a little bit about it in the site. But the funny thing about the Boone's Farm, Adam, is we didn't actually open it. But we hid it in Roy's wine cellar.
That's a riot.
So in the wine cellar that's got all these beautiful wines that he's collected, that students have donated to Wizard Academy.
I mean, some of these bottles of wine cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, stuck in there. I mean, if you just go grab one at random, there's a 2 out of how many chance that you might pull out a bottle of Boone's Farm.
what makes me laugh is if somebody truly has a sophisticated palate, is a wine snob, they may be so out of touch with the poor man's wine that they won't recognize it. I just wonder, if they open it and just take it for granted that it must be good because it's in that wine cellar.
It would be fun. It would be a riot to get a bunch of people who consider themselves connoisseurs and actually decant these bum wines and not tell them what they're drinking and just see what they say about it.
And they'd have to sign a release because some of them are called liquid crack. And some of them have warning.
Adam, we're in the advertising business. That's just good copy.
Well, I don't know when the trade, the alcohol and tobacco and firearms gets involved, and they make them put on a warning label that you might sleep with.
Here's the thing: the connoisseur is not going to curl up around a heating vent on a street with any bottle of wine.
Fair enough.
Right. So especially if you're tasting, you're just tasting, right?
Right.
You're not taking the bottle that you're tasting and chugging it.
I kind of resent tasters, people who just take a little in their mouth and spit. Go ahead and swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you're tasting all day.
Yeah, that's true. That's
so. Anyway, it was fun. We took some. So those of us that drank and then actually went outside and got rid of a little bit of it on the Burt Weinstein stone, which is the stone that we put hidden on the campus in honor of one of the original Worthless Bastards, Brett Feinstein. But we didn't put his name on it because we wanted to rob him of the honor of having his name anywhere on campus because he's never donated a dime. So his name is not anywhere, but this fictitious name of the Burt Weinstein stone is out there.
Yeah, you go there regularly. I think every time.
Well,
I
designed it. I ordered it, and I don't even know if this is a thing. It is because I said it is. It's a Texas pissing stone. It's a flat granite rock out in the middle of the woods that you can go pee on.
All right.
Is that have you ever heard of that? You were born in Texas.
I was not born in Texas.
You weren't?
I was born in Massachusetts on Martha's Vineyard. I grew up in the Midwest, moved around.
Well,
yeah. I didn't get to Texas. Well, and technically I'm in Austin, so some people debate that's not Texas.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I didn't get here until 99, summer of 99. So I don't know if it's a real thing, but I like to pee on rocks.
Yeah, well, and this is beautifully situated. You can stand in this little spot because it's surrounded by shrubs out in the woods, but it's fairly close to some of the buildings. But the way the shrubs are positioned, nobody can see you from those buildings. And the rock is actually down about 4 or 5 inches below your feet. You stand on another rock and you can pee down it, so you don't even get any splashback onto your shoes or anything. It's a beautiful thing.
That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, not that I worry about splashback.
Well, just for folks that do, no reason to be shy about this pissing stone.
Yeah.
So it's out there. If you ever get to Wizard Academy, you should find it. In fact,
you put the whiz in Wizard.
You can go put the whiz in Wizard Academy, and it's actually when you get down there and you go on Facebook and you click your check into a place. It is a place on Facebook.
No, I see you check into it all the time. Yeah. I know when you're in town because I know when you've gone to the bathroom.
Yeah, the Burt Weinstein stone.
Yeah, so. It announces it on Facebook. Now, to your knowledge, have only men? I mean, we have the plumbing for this, but I would think we've got some spirited individuals of the other gender that I imagine wouldn't let plumbing keep them.
I've heard rumor that some ladies have gone out and paid tribute.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And actually, there's a project that we could do. We would have done it last week, but it was a worthless bastard day, and so you really didn't want to do anything that would had any kind of ambition tied to it.
Right. That's a faux pas. You're supposed to be as worthless as possible.
Exactly. But what we noticed is that the ruins of the tight ass bench are out there next to the Whinstone. You remember the tight ass bench?
I do remember.
So this was one of those benches that was actually it was like less than a foot wide because you couldn't actually sit on it. Yeah. And it was also in honor of Brett Feinstein because he's never given a nickel to the Academy. Yeah. And so that it's in ruins. All the wood is rotted, but the metal railings for it are still out there. And I think that if you had a toilet seat, you could screw it onto those things, onto the handle sides, and actually put a sit down toilet right there next to the Whinstone. So I think that's a project for another day.
Well, it'd be great. Then you could lay it over the stone and have a seat.
Yeah, exactly. You could just and then I think we'd probably need a toilet paper holder out there as well.
Oh, sure, as a courtesy, just in case you take a dump.
My friend Eric just walked in.
Well, then you're on a mission.
It's almost burrito time. ¿Qué pasa, Eric?
Todo bien, David.
Now, see, he's speaking Spanish, and ¿Qué pasa is about it for me.
Hola.
Hola. My friend Adam says, by the way, we're recording a podcast, and we've already talked about you.
Do you like your burritos with flour tortillas?
Are we having burritos with flour tortillas, or
there's L's in it. Tortillas.
Adam says tortillas. I don't have you on speaker, so Eric can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm mispronouncing.
What's your shirt say, Eric? Something in Spanish. Más
lobos que nunca.
Más lobos que nunca. What's that mean?
More wolves than ever. It's a university in Mexico.
More wolves than ever. So yeah, when you think of Tucson and Spanish-speaking folks. Eric's probably not what would pop into your head. he's a redheaded kid from I don't know where. You're from Arizona, right? Yeah. But he doesn't look like most Spanish speaking people.
Gotcha.
That's probably just a really awful stereotype.
He looks like a
generalization.
Ginger.
He's very much ginger. Yeah. And he's got an identical twin that is nowhere near here. But so anyway, yeah,
he's speaking French somewhere.
No, he's actually speaking Spanish too. He lives in Panama.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the listeners at home are getting to know Eric rather well.
Do you hear the door banging too? See, like we just decided to jump on and record this. So I've got people walking in, and the door banging is the dogs trying to get in.
I heard the dogs earlier. I didn't realize they were banging on the door. That's kind of funny.
Well, at first they were barking because Eric walked in. Why don't you let him in, Eric?
I'll let you go. I think this is a good second episode. We got to talk about bum wine. There's a lot we didn't get to talk about, but this is good. This is a good next chapter.
So maybe we should do another one before 8 or 9 months has passed.
I would like that. I'd like us to do it more regularly. One of these days, I think we should talk about advertising a little bit, because that's how we both know each other. I know we kind of vowed we wouldn't, but
well, we talked about advertising here with the bum wine ad copy.
Well,
sort of, not really.
Copy.
It's a stretch. These dogs are just attacking Eric now. They're jumping all over him.
I'm a fan of the animals, but I just don't kiss on the first date.
Too funny. So yeah, I'm up for that. We could talk about ads. We could talk about lots of things. And maybe next time we record, I'll actually set aside some time where the dogs won't bark and people won't be walking in.
I like the dogs barking and people walking in.
We could just get another mic and throw Eric on here sometime and interview him in Spanish.
Yeah, I mean, our tens of viewers were probably tens of listeners.
Did you listen to episode 1, Eric?
I didn't know about this, Dave.
He didn't know about it.
Thanks.
How is that even possible?
I don't know how that's possible, because I know I posted it to Facebook back in March.
I think we have an announcement.
17 times a day, Dave. Sometimes we get lost.
Pull My Finger has an exciting announcement, and then we'll leave this conversation. Our friend Eric will be translating all of our podcasts into Spanish.
Oh, he'll be pleased to hear that.
Yeah. So our tens of listeners.
So I'm sure if we get him right on episode 1, that was an hour long. How long will it take you to translate episode 1 into Spanish, Eric? He's just shrugging, like he has no idea.
How long is it?
It's an hour. If you just did the important stuff, it'd probably take you 5 minutes.
Yeah, there really isn't that much that's worth translating.
Highlight that for me.
Highlight the important stuff.
Our idiocy kind of.
So we put it on YouTube back in, I think it was March, wasn't it?
I think so.
And,
that March sounds good.
And by last week, it had like 49 views.
I think we're over 50 now.
Are we?
Yeah.
So this latest posting actually did some good.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right,
man. You have fun. Happy burrito hunting.
Hey, and happy Thanksgiving. If I don't talk to you before that.
Yeah, to you as well, and to Eric.
I'll let him know.
And his twin.
And his twin. Let's not stretch it there.
And our tens of listeners. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Assuming this gets posted after Thanksgiving, well, then happy Thanksgiving in Canada next October.
Perfect sentiment for ending the show. Way to go, Adam.
It's what I do, buddy. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.